All right, fellow political refugees, not as catchy as saying free radicals, but welcome back. My name is Dave, and I am the political refugee floating aimlessly, waiting for a political party to come and rescue me. And that's probably not going to happen. This has been going on for decades. Should I be a libertarian? Should I be a Green Party person? Long time ago, I thought the Reform Party was the way to go. Ross Perot's old hangout. That has since pretty much just dried up, the Reform Party. That would be another option for many people these days. The movement for a People's Party, which hasn't really gotten its act together in 2020 as of yet. Supposedly big ramping up for 2024. We're going to have candidates. We're going to do so much good stuff. We need you now. We've got the senile guy against the guy who thinks you can inject a body with disinfectant. Okay? Those two candidates. And those are our two choices in 2020. The two big choices. So, in 2016, this is the neoliberal order at work. Washington Post. Planning to write in Paul Ryan or Bernie Sanders? It won't count in most states. So don't even think about it. Don't even... Look, if you dig in just slightly to their graphics here at the beginning, you figure out that it actually can count if you think through this and have a plan. Now, in 10 states here, you don't have to file and you can write in anyone. Tulsi Gabbard fans, I'm done voter shaming, especially when if you live in these 10 states and you feel like you want to write in Tulsi Gabbard, then you can. And she doesn't even have to do anything. Imagine if Tulsi Gabbard got a ton of votes in New Hampshire and Vermont, two states that I think she could do really well in. Rhode Island, too, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Iowa, Wyoming, Oregon, D.C., District of Columbia, Alabama, and Mississippi are in there as well. Those 10 states, you can write in Mickey Mouse if you want to. So that's interesting. And then, if you scroll down, 8 states, you can't do this at all. So if I'm like Jesse Ventura, and I'm still thinking about this, by the way, he is still thinking about this, which is crazy. He's not going to be the Green Party nominee. The Greens, again, whether you like him or not, it's Howie Hawkins. All right? I've had this discussion. It's not that I'm done promoting Howie. I essentially endorsed him on this channel, although I've changed the channel. I've literally changed the channel. My old channel, I endorsed him on. My new channel, it's up for grabs. That's the way I'm going to look at it. Doesn't mean I still don't think he's a good candidate. I just don't know if the Green Party is all that serious, and I'll show you this graphic right now. It's a good little segue. So, the Green Party is on the ballot in only 21 states for a presidential election. 21. That's and they're making it sound here like it's the more post-election ballot lines than we've had in over a decade. Thanks to Jill Stein. All right, and that was a great candidacy. I don't think you're going to see that kind of enthusiasm this time around. And it's tragic because, again, if you liked Bernie Sanders, you would think that Howie Hawkins would be a nice replacement. But it's not. Look, these candidates, okay, and I'm not trying to be cruel here. All of this is personality driven. Much of it is personality driven. People don't like dull, okay? You could say a lot of things about Donald Trump. He ain't dull, okay? He's not dull, and that's why people tend to like what he says, the people who like him, because it's not just what he says, it's how he says it. And it fires the people up who like him. Those people are all fired up. Me, today, not so much. And Joe Biden Joe Biden doesn't inspire or fire anyone up. It's just that the media is completely in the tank for Biden, and they're going to build up Joe Biden as Gandhi. Oh, he's this and that. He could be suffering some real severe mental decline right now, and the media is... Imagine that kind of lying. Imagine pushing someone on you who isn't physically able to be the president of the United States. Just incredible. But that's exactly what's going on. So the Greens only have ballot access in 21 states. So these 32 states, if I'm Jesse Ventura, and by the way, if I was Tulsi Gabbard too, and Tulsi isn't going to do this, because her character is different. She said, I'm in with Joe. That's not Joe Jorgensen, unfortunately. It's Joe Biden. And, I support him. I'm a Democrat. And maybe if they pick Tulsi and get Tulsi a job in the administration, I said the other day, if Joe ever picked her for vice president, which I just can't see it happening, but if he did, then my election dilemma is over. I vote for Biden because I don't think Biden's going to be around all that long to be president. And I think Tulsi would take over, and she'd be, that would be an amazing thing to have her as vice president waiting to become the president. Especially with all of the divisions in this country right now. Somebody like a Tulsi Gabbard could get up there and heal the rift. And it would be amazing to see. So I would take that chance. It is kind of a crapshoot anyway. Biden, Trump, they're going to have the same policies pretty much. One yells a lot and can't speak English. The other one can't think and is incoherent, can't speak English. I'm laughing, but it's tragic. So anyway, you got these 32 states here. And what you do in these 32 states is say, I want to be a write-in candidate. All right? This means, obviously, the person who's going, and by the way, this would be voting for smart people, not filling in the oval. This would take you a little longer. And I think in most of these states, not only do you have to list the person's name, but you have to then put a comma and then put their address, like their actual home address where they live. I don't know if it's in every state, but I'm pretty sure you have to do that. So you'd have to find that out. You'd have to have a candidate who'd obviously want to be written in. But if there is a true write-in campaign, then the candidate would say, okay, you draft me, that's your thing, I'll give you the information. You go about, getting me on the ballot if that's what you want to do. You could kind of, you could kind of play it both ways. You could say, well, I didn't have anything to do with this. This was all grassroots, which it would be. And I don't see any harm in, say, getting Tulsi Gabbard on these 32 states for write-in, because that's all it is. Her name isn't on the ballot. It would just be an allowance for her to be written in. And so they would have to count it, which is really cool. These 8 states, if you're totally dead serious about winning the election with a write-in campaign, like if I'm Jesse Ventura, I go and try to get my name on the ballot in these states as an independent. Don't mess around with the Green Party. Like I say, the primary is essentially over. There's no sense in trying to fight battles that you can't win. My complaint with Jesse, when I first heard he was back from Mexico, was that, man, you waited a long time, dude. You just, with all of the stuff going on with coronavirus, and now we have civil unrest and so forth, but it just, people were hungry. They were waiting. They're like, please say something, and he finally, kind of crawled out of his crater, and now he's hinting that maybe by the end of June, which is this month, so maybe in a couple of weeks, that medical thing that he's dealing with or his wife is dealing with, they'll have an answer on that and they'll know for sure. Here's the thing. This gives people some cover if they don't want to be part of this, this two-party nonsense. Now, I would be amiss, I don't know if that's the right word, but I would be amiss if I did not mention Joe Jorgensen, Libertarian candidate for president. I think currently the Libertarians are on ballots in 48 states. I know New Hampshire is fighting it tooth and nail because they're one of the most libertarian states. And if Joe gets on the ballot, I mean, look, Jo Jorgensen takes votes from both parties and she brings voters in who wouldn't have voted before. This is nonsense when people say, well, the Green Party, they're going to take Democrat votes. No, they're going to take votes from people who wouldn't have voted for anybody. All right, and the Libertarian candidate gonna maybe do the same thing and maybe take some votes from people who don't like Trump, maybe want a more libertarian approach to government, and people who like civil liberties but don't want to do the super hyper progressive agenda on domestic spending. All right, so yeah, Jo Jorgensen, definitely somebody that you don't have to write in. You can fill in the oval and vote for Jo Jorgensen, the Libertarian. Full disclosure, I am no longer affiliated with any party. I've just decided, screw it. NPA, no party affiliation here in the beautiful state of Florida, which is weird because most people here are Republicans. If you look at the registration in Florida, a lot of Republicans are registered to vote here in Florida. And sometimes they cross over and they vote Democrat. There's a lot of neoliberals here in certain areas of Florida who just want to hold on to their 401ks and so forth. They're all retired. They all moved down here to live the good life, and they just want to keep what they have. It's kind of a selfish existence, but that's why the libertarian views on charity don't work, because people, they want to hold on to their McMansion and their SUVs and, their boat dock and so forth. They don't want to have to, trim their lifestyle a little bit. So maybe those in their own neighborhood who, not in their neighborhood, but maybe in their own surrounding neighborhood, those people could have a decent life and a decent existence. So this write-in thing is kind of serious, and even though this was put out in 2016 by the Post as like, hey, don't even think about writing in a candidate, that's just silly. It's just not even going to count. Oh, really? It'll count. This is a dumb article because it counts if you do some filing, if you do just say, hey, I want to be able to be recognized as a write-in candidate. Again, you still are at a huge disadvantage as a write-in candidate as compared to a candidate whose name appears on the ballot. But 32 states, you could get yourself, into this by allowing people to write your name in, by doing the prior filing and doing the homework there. And in 10 states, you could rack up a ton of write-in votes. I mean, you could just start emailing people, hey, New Hampshire, let's see you guys write in Tulsi Gabbard in New Hampshire. Write her name in. Same thing in Vermont. Imagine in these 10 states if you could get 10% of the people writing in Tulsi Gabbard. Could happen. It could happen. And they've got to count those votes. They've got to count them. In these 8 states, these are the tough ones to crack. You have to get somebody's name actually literally on the ballot there. No option to write in, which is stupid. It's really not democracy if you can't just vote for who you want. And this shows that money guides it all, because it's very expensive. If you scroll down and read this article, you're going to find out one of the reasons you can't get on these ballots is because it's so expensive to do it. You've got to do fundraising. The Green Party, I don't know how they're doing on fundraising right now, but the Green Party, they always say, hey, we need to get ballot access, so please donate, contribute, and so forth. And I don't know if they're that. In 2017, either Bernie or Jill Stein or Howie Hawkins or whoever it was, they should have led a nationwide movement to get ballot access in all 50 states. That would have been job one. Because without doing that, then there's no point of running for president. Now, I think we're in desperate times where people are willing to write in a candidate. And if you want to write in Tulsi Gabbard or Jesse Ventura, have at it. Have at it. I've changed my mind. I do this a lot. I do change my mind. The reason I've changed my mind is the neoliberals are ruling the entire media class, and they're doing all that they can to essentially guide Joe Biden in for a soft landing at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. And to me, there's no stopping that. I mean, Trump is the only guy who can stop it in the media. And depending on what happens with all of this tension and stuff, depending on if people wake up to what's happening and they decide, hey, these people are all trying to just pull the wool over our eyes. I'm voting for whoever. I'm not going to listen to what they're telling me to do. Or, Biden is not a great alternative to Trump, despite what we hear every 5 seconds, which would mean, again, you don't have anybody to vote for. That's why a write-in candidate is actually somewhat appealing to a political refugee like myself. Why not? Why not? I can say, hey, I wrote in so-and-so. I wrote in Tulsi Gabbard. Now, in the state of Florida, I can't do that unless there is a prior filing. So, Jesse Ventura, you can give me an option here in the state of Florida. And then you can go on every channel that you can possibly get your mug onto and say, hey, you can write me in Florida. Go write me in. These two candidates are horrible. They wouldn't put my name on the ballot, but you can write me in. And people will do it. Now, will they count these votes? That's the key. That's another big issue, that they won't count any of the write-in votes. It's so much easier just to fill in the oval and, be gone, get out of there. I mean, people, they'll fill in ovals just, to have a little bit of fun. They won't know any of the down ballot stuff. They won't know any of the ballot questions. They'll just keep filling in ovals. So a better strategy is to be on the ballot in all 50 states. And again, Joe Jorgensen is going to be someone people consider not only as someone to vote for, but as a protest vote against the two-party establishment. She's, of all the candidates, and I'm going to say this, and I know I kind of endorsed Howie on the old channel, but with Joe being on the ballot in pretty much every state, and Howie only in 21 states, and I'm sure that number will go up some, but 21, again, if I do my math correctly, that's not half, okay? We got some problems. And that's why a lot of people, even though they like the Green Party platform, and they are okay with kind of moving past the whole Howie Hawkins is a Russiagator thing, or Howie Hawkins is doxing or rigging or whatever other complaint against Howie Hawkins right now. People are okay with this agenda and they want to vote for it, but the agenda isn't going to get anywhere near winning. So you've got to find someone who at least does 4 or 5 things really well, and Joe Jorgensen might be that person. I'm leaning more in that direction than I have since the very beginning, and everybody's saying, Dave, you got to go vote gold. And I'm like, gold, that's the new libertarian thing. That's their color. Everybody else is, blue or red or green, and they're gold, so good for them. They're kind of like the gold standard, maybe? I don't know. Economic policy, I'm going to have to sit down with Joe and have a lengthy discussion about what she believes and how she plans on helping these marginalized communities and disenfranchised communities. Because at this point in our history, with COVID and the racial tensions and all of the stuff happening, these people don't have any hope at all. And we need to run a candidate who will give them hope and opportunity and maybe some optimism thrown in there. That's something we don't see too often. So, in any event, I know this is a lengthy video on this. The Washington Post obviously gaslighting their readers. No, don't even think about it. This was in 2016. It's even worse this time around. They're probably just going to say, well, you might as well just vote for Biden. We don't tell you who to vote for, but you might as well just vote for Biden. Well, actually, they do op-eds, and they'll tell you all day long, yes, Joe Biden is a flawed candidate, but he is light years better than Donald Trump, and you have no other alternatives. Oh, yeah, you do. You do, and if the people find out about those alternatives, they're going to want to vote for them. So that's my video. Again, thanks for watching. This channel is barely afloat. I'm keeping it going, but I do need support every so often, and it's davidjspuria@gmx.com. That's for PayPal donations. Also, there's a link to my Patreon, which is also linked to another YouTube channel, which is my Real Music Observer channel. And I didn't ever think I was going to have two channels. Again, this started mainly to support Tulsi Gabbard for president. I've since kind of done a pivot, but I'm trying to include Tulsi in some of the conversations again, especially since I'm a refugee just floating around out here. So no sense in avoiding talking about Tulsi Gabbard, as she still, in my estimation, she still was the best candidate. I wish she was still running, and maybe we can just mount this huge write-in campaign. We'll write her in these 10 states. It won't be a problem. You can go to these 10 states and say, hey, vote for Tulsi Gabbard. You got nothing to lose. And at least you can tell your kids and your grandkids that you rejected this entire neoliberal disaster, which is the current election system we have now. Who knows? There's probably no political solution to any of this, but we continue, and we hope for the best. All right. See you soon.